Hello, everyone. We are alive. Today, I have my friend Bruce. We practice comedy sometimes in Joke Zoom. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Murad. I appreciate. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to talking with you and talking about life, comedy, and whatever else, wherever we take it.
Thank you so much. So, for how long have you been doing comedy?
Okay. About 4 years ago, I took a class, something called Stand Up University, and it was a 5-week class. And because I had never done comedy before, I wanted to see if I have the ability to get up on stage and do it. So after the class was over, we had a graduation show, and I really loved it. And right after that, I took some time off because we had some family issues. So I've really been doing comedy seriously about 3 years. Yeah.
3 years. So, did you take
Right.
only that class, one class?
One class, right. Afterwards, I took some other classes, but that was the intensive class that got me into the comedy. See, I was in a very bad car accident many, many years ago, and I had a very bad spinal injury. I always liked comedy. I always liked to fool around. My family was into comedy, not so much performing, but just like to laugh a lot. And I used to go to New York City and watch Rodney Dangerfield and some other comedians. Well, after I had this bad spinal injury, I vowed if I could stand up, I'm going to do stand-up comedy.
Wow.
And so that's how bad the accident was. And thankfully, yes, I am standing up. I do walk with a cane though, but that's okay. But yes, I that's how I kind of got into the whole comedy routine. Also, I had a friend of mine who used to book comedians for various things, various shows and fundraisers. And one time I was at one of the fundraisers and I got to sit next to the headlining comedian. This comedian is a national headliner, and we got to talk during dinner. And we talked about comedy, getting into it. And that was for 2 years in a row. I actually was fortunate enough to be sitting next to this person. So whether it was fate or karma or whatever it is, we were just able to sit and talk about comedy together. And I took the chance. And here we are, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy. But can you tell me more? How was the accident? Were you driving? And what happened
Yeah,
back?
yeah. What happened was I was the third car of a small accident. Then I got rear-ended full speed. So
Oh,
somebody basically hit me full speed, and I was like the meat in the middle of the sandwich. I just got, and so it crushed part of my spine, among other things. And but I was a medical miracle that I said I'm alive and walking. In fact, when the doctors were looking at my X-rays and MRIs and so on and so forth, one of them, my brother was a doctor, and one of his friends was sort of overseeing my case, and she had tears in her eyes. And I said, "Why are you crying?" She says, "I'm looking at this." And she said, "Somebody was on your side. God was on your side. You may not feel it right now, but I'm looking at this. You shouldn't be alive," she says. "Or if anything, you should be in a wheelchair, paralyzed." And I started to cry, you know, because here I am feeling so terrible because I had the back brace and everything else like that. But hey, I was able to walk. I had no surgery, had no extended hospital stay. I was fortunate when I got hit in the accident that my spine did not rotate. If it had rotated, then I had a big mess. But aggressive rehab, and I still do exercises every day to make sure I stay strong. You know, ironically, I was in the fitness business for 30 years. And I got retired out, 16 years ago in the company I used to work at. So I was in fitness. I used to teach fitness. I used to teach health and all those other things. So maybe that helped me out a lot in the accident. Plus, I did my own rehab. As I said, every day I'm doing my exercise. So, and it's part attitude, it's part luck, whatever it may be, Mother Nature. I'm fortunate enough that, here I am. To look at me, you wouldn't know it, but I do have the cane. But as I said, I'm very aggressive with my exercise, and so that's an important thing in my life because I grew up with that. Plus, I used to teach it and work with it. So so you got to stay fit not only physically but mentally. Yeah, that's a big challenge during COVID times, especially. You probably know this. You're in the house all day long. You're not seeing friends. You're not seeing family the way you used to. So how do you balance the physical side and also the mental side? And it's a challenge. That's why comedy has been great, because I would have never met somebody like you it wasn't for this with the Zoom shows. And, I call myself the Zoomologist. I do so many shows. That's my nickname for myself. I'm the Zoomologist. If you've ever seen my website, I have all the postings of all my shows and things that I put on there, and it's a lot. And I try to stay active in the comedy community that way by meeting people all over the world. And that's the benefit of Zoom and StreamYard and some of the other platforms. And as I said, I would have not been able to have that reach, whether it's in Cyprus, whether it's in Bangkok, whether it's in China, Japan, Korea, wherever, India, whatever it may be, Canada. I've been at all, Israel, Scotland, UK, Australia. I've done all the different mics and shows through all that, and it's been fun. As I said, if it ever gets to the point where life gets back to normal, it'd be great if I was overseas, because I've made so many contacts, and if it ever works out, who knows? I'm not saying it is, but not only that, within the United States, I've met people from all over the country. Just think about the reach that you've had over the last several months, joining Joke Zoom and some of the other platforms, starting your own mic, doing the podcast over here. You've reached out to so many people, and people respect you for that and love you for that, because not only are you providing a platform for these people, you're a funny comedian on top of it. So you not only, host everything, but you can basically, do your comedy, and people can appreciate that too. Yeah.
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 It's just, I feel so happy and I feel so lucky that these Zooms are happening, and it makes me even now more excited to get to the US. And it's crazy how you can build some emotions with other people through the camera. And I feel it's even new experience for humans to be able to build this, not just because humans didn't have access to what we have access today upon that COVID. So it makes the Zoom seems like real life, and it's just beautiful how you can also build some connections and feelings with others.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only just comedy wise, but just on a personal basis, you get to know somebody in a different light. And comedy, when you do your comedy, when I do my comedy, it's an extension of our lives in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's an exaggerated extension sometimes, but at the end of the day, you're coming up with premises and ideas that are personal experiences, not only family experiences, life experiences, job experiences, relationship experiences, money experience, whatever it may be, school experiences, growing up experiences. We all done that. We all had, hopefully had parents, good, bad, or indifferent. We all had siblings. We all had cousins. We all went to school. We all had to work, and we all had a boyfriend, girlfriend, or attempted to have a boyfriend, girlfriend, We all experimented with cigarettes and drugs and this and that and alcohol, whatever it is. I'm not saying you did that, but, I'm saying is that everybody has a lot of commonality, and the premises are basically the same. But what makes Muad unique and what makes Bruce unique experiences, my personal spin on things. How did I react in high school? How did you react in high school? What happened in high school that was different to you? Was I popular with the girls? Were you popular with the girls? Was I on the baseball team? Were you on another? Did you do something else? Did you? The experiences are different, but the actual experiences in some ways are the same. So and that's the fun thing about comedy, because listen to me and my experiences in high school and say, wow, he went through that in high school. I talk about his story, and this is true in high school. This is a true story. Most people don't believe this when I get on stage. I don't do it very often, but I'm doing a very long set. You may have heard this before. I was in high school. It was a public school in New York City. Part of the public school system in New York City, you had certain criteria you had to pass in gym. And one of those was taking a swim class. Back in the early 1970s, when I was in high school, because I'm 66 years old, by the way. So, I'm not a youngster, but I'm certainly not an old fart either, So, but we had to take swim class. And this is the honest to God truth. We had 7:30 in the morning, it was freezing, water and everything. We get in there, and the first day of class, I said to the teacher, where's our bathing suits? And he said, there are no bathing suits. It's a naked swimming class. Let me repeat that, a naked swimming class. Okay? And how can people understand that? Everybody says, "Ah, no, you're full of it. It's impossible, not naked. It's impossible. You're pulling my leg." I said, "No, it's a naked swimming class." And imagine being 13 years old or whatever it is, not having the high end of puberty. Basically, I didn't even have eyebrows at 13 years old. And all these other guys, you have the whole people who were very muscular developed, people who had hair all over their body, and me, just this meek little kid, having people basically do naked swimming. So I wrote a bit about that, and I think it's funny. I mean, but the idea is, get on stage and say something like that, and you thinking to yourself, naked swimming, you must be kidding me. And and I always tell people, look it up. And when they look it up, they say, "You're right. Why would I lie about that?" So, and I go out and say, I said the teacher said my birthday suit is my bathing suit. Basically, what the birthday suit is? Birthday
Yes.
suit is you being naked. Naked, yes. So
Oh,
that's what they call birthday suit. Is what they call you being naked. So in the U.S., so my birthday suit was my bathing suit. So and then I go through this whole trial and tribulation. And also, I don't know if you know what water polo is. Water polo is a sport you play in the water. It's almost like
I know.
soccer in the water.
And you scored.
Exactly. Imagine playing water polo naked. With the legs kicking, the arms, this and that. And there's this whole scenario there that you build up, and that's unique to me. You're
But
never going to
sorry,
hear that on
naked boys and girls, or only boys?
No, not girls, just guys, just boys. And the funny thing is, the girls didn't have to swim naked. They had bathing suits on, but the guys had to swim naked. Now you start to wonder, why would the guys have to swim naked only? Does it have something to do with the teacher? Did it have something to do with the school system? There's a lot of questions had to be asked now. Imagine trying to get away with that right now in this day and age, political correctness and stuff. All I say is no suit would equal lawsuit.
Oh my, that's crazy. That someone can pull a crazy conspiracy theory from this.
Exactly. But it wasn't only unique to the public school system in New York. I've talked to people in Texas. I've talked to people in other places. And they said, "Yeah, I can't believe you said that, because we had naked swimming also." And I have friends who went to high school. We talk about it all the time. I see people and they say, "You went to Bayside High School?" And I said, "I know what you're going to tell me right now. Did you have naked swimming?" It's there. It's out there. I'm going to send you a link to that. You can take a look at it.
Yeah, I will have a look. But I also want to ask you, it's weird that why humans are very shy to be naked. Why we like, and is it something we're born like this, our ancestors did it, which is some people say now that if people keep wearing the mask, then the new generations would be shy to show their nose, as now you be naked. What do you think?
It's interesting you say that, because let's face it, I have a very big Jewish nose. My profile, very big nose. I'm very tall and thin. Okay. I'm 6 feet, 170 pounds. All right. I work out a lot. I'm not big muscles or anything, but just think back then when you were young and you really haven't gone into puberty yet. You didn't have all over your body the hair. I didn't have facial hair, back then, but some guys did have facial hair. Some guys were more muscular. Some guys were, let's face it, had bigger body parts than I did, and that's when you start finding out, your insecurities. That's why when you're naked, what is you're naked? You're exposing yourself to the world. And that's why people find it difficult to do stand-up comedy. Think about this. You're basically naked on stage right now. You have clothes on, but you're naked in front of this crowd, and you're expected to do something in front of this crowd to entertain them. Okay? In a way, that's why people say one of the hardest things to do is stand-up comedy, because you have to convince whatever the amount of people in the audience, 10, 20, 100, 200, 300, 1,000 people in the audience, you have to convince them that, hey, I'm standing on stage here. You came to see me. I'm naked right now. They're judging you. All right. Until you start to do your routine. then they start to wonder, hey, this guy's funny, whatever it is. There's that acceptance, But when we're in a gym class and you have naked swimming, imagine how long that walk from the locker room to the swimming pool was. How long? Maybe it only been 100 feet, but it felt like 100 yards. And then the same thing on the way back. So there's a lot of issues that take place over there. That's on the physical side. How do I look in the mirror? And it's not just when you're in high school. People now, what do people say? If you're fat, people, there's a stigma about being too fat. There's a stigma about being too skinny. There's a stigma about being bald-headed. There's a stigma about being big nose, big ears, short, tall. Richie the Head Parisi, a good friend of ours from Zoom, good comic. What does he talk about in his routine? About being short. All right. That's who he is. I talk about certain things about maybe my nose or some other things about my physical things. That's who we are. We can't change who we are. Why not embrace it as best as we can? You don't necessarily want to make fun of each other. You want everybody, the uniqueness of ourselves makes us that much more interesting when we're on stage. When you tell stories about your family life, okay, how you talk about whatever was growing up, I can't relate to that because I didn't grow up in your neighborhood. But I get a true appreciation of who Muad is just by hearing his stories. Yes, he had, again, issues with his parents. I had issues with my parents. I had issues with my brothers and sisters. Brothers, I don't have sisters. My brothers, you may have had that too. You may have had it with your relatives. You may have had it with your neighbors, your friends. The first time you went out with friends, first time you, whatever it may be, And again, we're all the same, but we're all different. And that's the uniqueness of all this comedy stuff, not just comedy, but life in general. Well, like you were saying before about being naked, what's the stigma to that? Let's face it, people can be cruel, that's an unfortunate part of life. Some people, whatever the reason being, they're insecure or just they want to feel superior to somebody, they can pick on people for those reasons because not everybody is the perfect person, not everybody has the perfect body or the perfect mind, But that's what the whole idea of adapting ourselves to meet people and understand people and appreciate those who are different than us. Because if everybody was the same, that kind of be boring also.
Yeah. It's really interesting how you describe comedy and with being naked. That basically, as you said, most of my jokes are about being from Yemen. How is it in Yemen? Being with my family. You have different family, and then you have the appreciation to have access to. Basically, I'm taking you on a ride with your mind and making it also funny. It's. Do you think there is something like spiritual in comedy? Because some people say, like if you are a bad person, if you are someone who steal, who cheat, who had also bad childhood, it's even harder to be comedian because you cannot fake yourself in front of the audience. Do you think this makes sense?
I'm not honestly, obviously, if you're a bad person, you have a lot of anger, you do bad things. Maybe it is a little bit more difficult to get on stage and maybe joke about it. But then again, you have who Sam Kinison is or was? Sam Kinison is a famous comedian. Okay, he would get out on stage and yell and scream, but his character was so fantastic. He's come out as being very angry and loud and so on and so forth. That was his persona. That was his personality. I'm not saying he was that angry person or out of the stage, but people get a character on stage. If you're a bad person, I don't know if you get into comedy. I guess a bad person can get into comedy. I guess if you're a liar, a cheater, and steal, maybe you can talk about those days, how you used to do that. Maybe you don't want to talk about that now. But I don't see it. You are who you are. There's different levels of comedy. There's different types of comedy. What makes you funny doesn't make me funny. What makes me funny doesn't make you funny. But not everybody, we don't laugh at every comedian. Not every one of our jokes lands. There's not a comedian in the world who's never bombed, who doesn't get on stage and hear silence.
Yes.
I don't think Every comedian, I think, when they get on stage, has that fear, you know?
Yes, I even heard that, like even Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, they would still go to other not open mic, but small mic, which is like there is only 20, and they would try new jokes and premise that they have now. They also sometimes bomb because sometimes the audience are not their fan, or it's not funny for the audience. And also, what's crazy about comedy is that I build this joke, but in a way, I have no idea how you will view it, because the way you will view my joke, it depends on your personality, in your past, what happened, who you are. So all these things that happen in your life will make you view from an angle that I will never think about.
Absolutely. But then again, the creativity that you or any other comedian has is to put together that joke in a way that as many people possibly can get that joke. You know, that's that's the hard part about comedy. Being funny is obviously, we all can be funny with each other, but how do you be funny in front of, as I said, 20 people, 100 people, 50 people? Like you just said, how do we get those people to understand where you're coming from? Because everybody is from different walks of life. Yeah,
Mm.
you know, and that's very difficult. But there's always that twist, because if you come up with a unique premise or a spin on a premise, because there's only so many premises out there we talked about, but some of the things you have is so unique because you come from Yemen, and where you're living right now is, you know, the different traditions. So I speak to a lot of comedians from India, you know, you know, or Pakistan, or Malaysia, or Japan, or even Canada, you know, or even this or Kansas, or even like Kentucky or Florida versus New York. People are different, you know, and just that's the beauty of this all. But also at the same time, it's a challenge. How do you connect with everybody? But how do you put all the dots together? And if you look at some of the real popular comedians or real successful comedians, they found that, how to do that. And once you get a fan base, it's sort of, you know, it's like a snowball going down. You know, obviously you don't have snow where you are, right? So you know what I'm saying, snowball going down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger. It takes momentum. It all catches momentum, and that's the great stuff. That's the great thing about this. Is suddenly people want to see certain comedians. And as you get more experience, there'll be times when people want to say, "Well, lots of the show. That's fantastic." You
Yeah.
know, I'm not a high level comedian. I'm not a headliner, you know, but I've done big sets, and I've headlined Zoom shows. I've headlined some live shows. I'm not saying they're big live shows, but they're still headliner, if you want to call it that. I don't consider myself a headliner, but I get on some shows and I saw, oh, Bruce is here. It's fantastic. You know, that's a nice feeling to have. You know, so again, I think part of it's attitude too. You know, and as I said, I'm very impressed with you over the course of a couple of months that I know you, how you've taken this to a next level and worked hard at it. You know, because you have to keep working hard at this. You know, I've seen a lot of comedians, especially on Zoom. You can get very lazy on Zoom if you want. You know, I find that some people read their material on Zoom. When I first started doing Zoom, I said, this is great. I can have my material right in front of me. I won't forget any lines. That's not good. That's not performing. That's reading. If
Yeah.
it's a new bit, that's a different story. You know, that's a different story because you don't have it memorized enough. But when I found it first, I was looking down a lot. I didn't realize how to use the cameras and stuff. People said, Bruce, you're looking down. What, are you reading it? You know, and not just me, other people. So that's the danger of these online platforms. You can get very lazy in your comedy. So
Got
it's
it.
very, very important to, you know, even if you screw up, nobody really cares. You know, you're only as good as your last set. And we're all self-critical. I know I'm self-critical. I'll do a set and I say, you know, everybody said, oh, great set, Bruce, it was funny, this and that. And I said, yeah, it was, but you know, I screwed up this joke, or I forgot this joke, or my timing was off on this, or I stepped on this punchline. You know, so you're self-critical, which is a good thing, because if you're not self-critical, you're not going to grow. But then you can't beat yourself down either, because we're all going to get out there and we're going to say a joke or have a set, and it's not going to go over well. You know, I had a time where I was performing in New York City live, and I don't know if you know the famous club Dangerfields. Rodney Dangerfield, you know who Rodney Dangerfield is?
Yes.
Rodney Dangerfield, he's the king of the one-liners, no respect. I always loved him and his comedy, and some of my comedy I try to make like the same style as his. And I remember I was fortunate to, one of my bucket lists of comedy, even if I never went anywhere, I always wanted to perform on that stage. If I got on that stage and performed, I was a comedian. I felt validated. Okay. So I got on the stage several times there, and I remember I said to the promoter there, these were low-level shows. Believe me, these were like bringer shows and other stuff. I wasn't featured in any of the main shows. And the guy who was promoting the show said, you know, Bruce, you know, you do all the shows for me. I said, can I get on a pro show? A pro show basically is a book show where people actually see headliners and they come to see the headliners. And there's some famous headliners in New York City. And so this is great. It was a Friday night. He said, come at about 10 o'clock at night. Okay. So I drove in there. I found a spot right in front of Dangerfield. This is fantastic. I got there, it was 9 o'clock, which I was excited because I had never really been to a pro show at Dangerfield as a comedian. So I got there and I saw the MC, and this guy was miserable. He was miserable, this MC. He didn't want to be there. He seemed to be a failed comedian and just angry. So I said, here I am. The promoter said I should come here. And he said, what are you doing here so early? You're on the late show. And I said, what time's the late show start? He says, 10:30. You're not going to get on to 20 after 12 or quarter after 12, midnight. And now it's 9 o'clock at night. I said, could you put me on the earlier show? Because I drove in and they said, no, on the late show. So now I had to wait through all this, which is cool. I got to meet some of the comedians. But the headliner on the late show was a really nice gentleman. And he actually saw me performing at Dangerfield and sort of took me under his wing. You know, that means he kind of took me under his wing. He said, Bruce, I really like you. I like your style. I like the way you dress. There's some improvements you need to be made. Here's my business card. You know, call me. Most people, when somebody hands them a business card, they throw it away. It's full of crap and bullshit or whatever. I actually called him. And we spent some time. I took him to lunch a couple of times and we talked about different things. But anyway, he was headlining that night. And when he gets on stage, he can do 20 minutes, he can do 30 minutes, he can do 40 minutes. He does whatever basically he wants.
Nice.
You know, because that's at the level he's at. And he's on there now. It's like 20 after 12 midnight. I still haven't gone on yet. How do you follow a headliner like that? And after midnight, and half the people at the point have left the place because they're tired, they're drunk, they want to pay their check, they waited for the headliner, and now coming to the stage is me. Not only am I coming to the stage, instead of saying Bruce Lipsky, the MC said Brian Lipsky. They even mispronounced my name. I said, I'm doomed. I'm doomed over here. You know, following the headline and mispronouncing my name. Even the headliner yelled at, hey, it says it's Bruce, not Brian. And so I get out there and there's maybe 8 people left in the crowd and half are like this, drunk and tired. They want to pay their check. No matter what I did or said, nothing's happening here. My jokes were just not going anywhere. I tried hard, but it just didn't resonate. I got some laughs, but nothing where I would have loved to get laughs. So that was it was a great experience. Of course, it was a negative experience because, hey, who wants to get on stage and not hear the laughter? That's what we're here for. But I rode the set out. I wasn't going to quit. You know, I mean, I didn't take, I took it a little bit personally because everybody wants to be on stage and be funny, but I also understood the dynamics of all this business. You know, it's a business. And at the point where, you know, you're only as funny sometimes as the amount of people you can bring to put in seats, you know? And once you get a following, it's a lot easier. But as a beginner comedian, we have these things called bringer shows. I don't know if you're familiar with the bringer shows, where in order to get stage time, new comedians, they say, okay, if you can bring 4 people, we'll give you 5 minutes of stage time, or whatever it is, 7 minutes of stage time. After a point, it's hard to bring people. You know, I'm an older person in the sense that my people tend to be my age. They don't want to go into a show, let's face it, they want to go to bed by that time. Yeah. So that's a difficult thing. So how do you get past that point of the bringers?
Mm.
Just got to get better and get better. And one is what's helped me a lot. I still get asked to do bringers because everybody's going to get asked to do bringers. But I've hopefully gotten to another level where I don't have to do as many bringers. I actually I get guest spots on shows. I get some paid shows also. And, and that's a neat thing. It validates you as a comedian. But at the same point, you got to work it. You can't sit back and say, oh, well, how come nobody's coming to me? You have to go to them. And sometimes it is a sacrifice. People used to say, Bruce, you're up at 4 a.m. to do a mic from Tokyo or Australia. Why? Because I wound up networking with some people and I got on some of their regular shows. And I got to, again, people get to know who I am. And another person from the United States, I like Bruce, so I'm going to put him on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the perfect example, how you can broaden your horizons. I did a Zoom show and it went very well, I thought. And then a few months later, I got contacted by a person. And he said, I'm so-and-so. I'm doing a cartoon, an internet cartoon. I loved you and your voice. How would you like to do a voiceover character for me?
Wow.
And again, this is not like like The Simpsons or anything, but you got to start somewhere, And so I was fortunate that I did voiceovers for this particular couple of episodes, and the latest episode just came out. I have a big part in that episode, and where would I have ever gotten that opportunity? It's not a financial opportunity, maybe now, but now it's something that I can add to my resume, build up my resume. And I spent a lot of time building my own website. You got to do self-promotion. Think it, I'm an older person. When I say older, generation-wise, I'm not into social media the way a lot of the young people are, but I had to embrace social media. Somebody said, you got to get on Facebook. So, okay, I'll do it Facebook. Okay, big deal. So I'm on Facebook. You got to promote yourself on Facebook. You have a fan page. I looked it up how to figure out how to build a fan page. To you, it may be very easy to do, but somebody who doesn't have the social media intellect, it was a challenge at first, but I went through everything and I said, how are people going to know who I am? Maybe I should build a website. So I built the website and I actually had my niece help me out because I started building it. I built websites before for other people, but this was a little bit more complex stuff. So my niece helped me out a bit once I got my format going, and I managed the website myself. People said, I want a website, but they don't want to manage their website. I'm on my website managing it almost every day, shows and this thing and that thing. And that's sort of been my introduction where people say, Bruce, you have a website, boom, here it is. I'm on my website is past reels, it's shows that I've done, it's just about me. And is it the most sophisticated website in the world? No, but it doesn't matter. I have a physical presence out there. The one thing I'm probably lacking at is a YouTube channel. I have one, but I don't, that's not my forte. It's not my strength. But the key thing is you have to do self-marketing. You have to be your own personal marketer. I don't have an agent. You don't have an agent. We can't. Who's gonna be my agent? Who wants to book me for a big show? Nobody. What's the point of having an agent? But there's comedians who have agents, and then these people circle around and do everything for them, book shows. And also at my stage in my life and career, as far as I'm retired, how much do I want to be doing? Do I want to be traveling the country doing shows? Not that I had offers for that. I've had a few offers to go certain places. More so, if you're in California, we'll definitely book you. I had somebody offer me something in Texas, but they're not paying my way down there. I'm not a headliner. I'm not paying for my hotel. They said, we'll put you on stage, but, the rest is up to you. Oh, what is that for? That's not going to work. But yeah, there are certain ways you can market yourself. And and even like having a business card, I'm on business cards. How often do I give them out? When I'm at shows, I see people, here's a business card. Do they throw me the garbage afterwards? I don't know. But at least I have something. If somebody has asked me, do you have a business card? It's got me on some shows, some paid shows. And so again, getting to know people, networking with people, I've got on shows, and I've done the same for others. I said, okay, so-and-so, I'm doing this show. I'd love to have you on there. I can get you on. This is a paid show. It's not a paid show. I just got a check in the mail today for a show I did, a library show. It's great. again, you're not getting rich on this, but it's validation again that I've worked hard to develop my set and practice this and get on stage and perform. And why not get paid for it? You know, yeah, and that's a neat thing. But most of my shows, I don't get paid to perform. I'm just happy to get stage time.
Yeah, I got it. Um, I really feel so fortunate to have this podcast because I learn a lot from people like you. And, I just like around 8 months ago is when I find that comedy exists, or it's like something like that. So talking to people like you who was fan of comedy even when you were young and now you are doing it, you have to, everything you tell me is valuable, is useful. One thing I find about my comedy, um, you know, there were some period of my life where I was a little bit embarrassed to be from Yemen, to have this family, um, and now I feel it become my strength, and it's funny, like all what I have been through, everything I didn't like is hilarious. Also, this is one thing. Another thing, just my actions. I had some certain actions in my life
Right,
during
right, right,
my teens. What I did are also hilarious for people. I feel
right,
like
right,
when I
right.
tell them what I did, like you were talking about your school, same things. Like when I tell them what I did and who I met, people laugh. And also my background. So this keeps me so active, and it makes
Great,
it doesn't. I
great.
don't think that, oh, what I did was funny. My background is funny. I can relax. No, this makes me work even harder to
Good for
value
you.
this and to
Right.
make it more sharp.
Right. I have a lot of respect for you for that. And the neat thing about it, I've seen it. I've watched you over the course of that last couple of months or whatever it is. Once you got into Joke Zoom and some of the open mics, so you're doing all the right stuff. You're doing a lot of self-reflection, saying, "Hey, this really is could be funny, but it's my life. It's my individual." That's why people are laughing with you, not at you. And that's the big difference right now. When you're embarrassed about who you are, what you are, you feel people are laughing at you. You know, that's a terrible feeling. That brings out all our insecurities. But when you have the confidence to get on stage, whether it's a virtual stage or a live stage, and as I said, become naked, in that respect, guess what? All the gems come out, all the gold comes out, and suddenly people are sitting back like this, and now they're leaning in like this, body language, because now they're listening to Muad, or listening to Bruce, or listening to whoever the person is. You basically, it's like a fishing. You're reeling them in with a hook. And again, because you're doing it out of confidence and strength, as opposed to embarrassment and weakness. And but that embarrassment and weakness that you had, that you turned into a strength, makes you a
Mhm,
good comedian. It's
mhm.
only going to make you a better comedian. Now the key things, you find other things to talk about. Obviously, your life is important, all your experiences. But as you grow, and we're all growing, you never stop growing. You never stop writing. You never stop editing. Certain days you try and write, you have nothing to write about. You know, Other days things just flow and flow. Doesn't mean
Yeah,
they're great jokes, great stories, but it's the opportunity just to feel your energy, your creative energies. There's
exactly.
certain. That's why Rob always talks about finding a certain time of day to write. He does his stream of consciousness. He does other things. I find I'm disciplined to write, but I'm less disciplined when I write.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Do
I
you
don't
use
like. Yeah.
anything when you are writing? Do you write just super, or do you use anything like
I actually, I,
coffee,
I
beer?
actually, a lot of times when I write, I get inspirations during the day, and I write it on my phone. It's on my phone where I have my notes there, but I take that and put it into Word documents and then refine it from there. I have to have everything. I don't write physically with a pen because my handwriting isn't very good. I think I type faster than I write. Even if I don't type the words correctly, I misspell them there, it doesn't matter, but I know what the words are. And on my iPhone here, there's a section called Notes. I'm sure you have, you know what that is. And I have various topics. For example, today I was at the eye doctor, had my eyes checked, and I'm in there and that's okay. I had a topic that I started writing about this morning, and I continue to write about that on my phone. Doesn't mean it's a finished joke, but there's ideas on there,
I
okay?
got
That
it.
maybe I can turn into a joke or a bit, you know, and just put them down. Because I like a lot of the one-liners, you know, that's one of my blessings and one of my curses about my comedy is that I tend to have a lot of one-liner shorter jokes. And if you're doing a long set, you can get into a rhythm that almost becomes predictable. And you don't know my punchline, but you can kind of know when the punchline's coming. So one of the things I'm trying to work on is changing my cadences and pauses and extending some of my stories a little bit, adding a few more things in there just to break that rhythm. I remember I did on Zoom. I did several 20-minute sets. I did a 20-minute set on Zoom, and then it was like sort of a feedback mic show. And afterwards, I had people, real professional comedians would critique you. And everybody had the same response. They said, love your writing, love your style, love who you are, I like your voice, your inflections, and this like that. But you've got to change your cadences. You know what the cadence is? Cadence is the speed, how you talk.
Yes.
Okay. Not only that, lengthen certain things, do this, do that. He says, if you did that, you'd be at such a higher level. He says, it's not a question of how you write, it's how you perform. You don't want to be a joke teller. You want to be a performer. Big difference. You know, anybody can get on stage and tell jokes, you know, but it's the performance that backs it up that makes you a real comedian, you know, or more established or better, higher level comedian. And that's done through natural. One of your strengths that I see as an outsider looking in, you have just a very calm, natural being. And when you talk about your experiences, which are very traumatic, you don't come out as hysterical. You come out as that same easygoing type of thing, but you can tell that the whatever it is there, behind it is there. And you're kind of laughing to yourself, but you're also, you know, to the same point, bringing it out to us. And I've been told that on stage, Bruce, you're very easygoing, you're very easy to listen to. You have a very unique voice, a very nasally New York voice, you know, so especially people from foreign countries, they all say, oh, I love when Bruce comes on. I just love his voice.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't think my voice is anything special. Also, I have a very unique personality, but very facial look. Okay. I don't know if you know, there's an actor called James Cromwell. Cromwell. He's done a lot of motion pictures. And every time I get on a Zoom, or actually not just Zoom, anywhere, they said, well, you know, you look like James Cromwell. Yeah,
Wow.
all the time. Oh, you look like another guy. There's 3 people that I look like. And I just did a Zoom show the other day, and the same thing, that guy wrote in the private chat. Did anybody tell you look like James Cromwell and this guy here, you know, and Sam Elliott or something like that. I forget who it was. And I said, yep, all the time. So how come you don't build that into your acts? You know, I don't know. I just haven't really built it into my acts. I just felt it was, I don't know. It didn't seem to benefit my act necessarily. You know, but yeah, this is how we use our uniqueness. You know, maybe I should do more of that, play off that. You know, I'm Jewish. You know, I play well to the elderly people, senior citizens, because I am a senior citizen. I play well to synagogues and nursing homes and those type of places because that's more my element. But my challenge is, how do I become relevant to the young crowd? Okay. That's a challenge. How do you become relevant to somebody your age or somebody who's in their 20s? For example, I can do let's say a library show. Who comes to a library show? You can get 200 people at a library show. The average age is probably my age, you know, because the library show during the day. How about a Friday night at 10 o'clock at the Broadway Comedy Club? You're not going to see many of my contemporaries there. You're going to see your contemporaries there. Do they want to hear about getting old and married and kids? Yeah, they do, but up to a point, you know. They want to hear maybe some different more relevant topics to them. But again, if you can write funny, it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter. If you can write funny, funny is still funny. And learning how to do that and keeping everybody in the crowd together, maybe doing more crowd work. That's another area that I need more time, more experience with. But how do you do crowd work if you're not doing a lot of live shows? You know, there's a lot of issues here, especially if you're not a high level comedian and you're only getting 5 or 7 or 8 minutes. You don't want to do too much crowd work because you want to get stage time we call it here, stage time is precious. You have a 5-minute set. What you don't want to do is get on stage and say, hey, give it up for the MC. Oh, we got a beautiful crowd tonight. That's precious stage time that you just basically threw to the side, and you're never getting that back.
Yeah. How now when you, for example, keep trying and trying, they say that comedian, you go to open mics and see what people laugh on, and then you collect it, and then you just have it in one piece. So you are basically going and see what people laugh on. You are checking with people, and people will tell you what's funny, and then you keep what people showed you that it's funny, which is good. I feel like, for example, this could work with, for example, politics, leaders. Always it's nice to talk to people, to see what people like, and you collect that, and then you can be really good, not just with comedy. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, a good point. Open mics, I think they're excellent. It has certainly have value. If you look back into the 1980s and 1990s, when open mics, people, all these established comedians, what were they doing? They were going to open mics, and oftentimes when they go to open mics, they have a piece of paper with them with new jokes. They're not performing necessarily as much. They may be reading their jokes, and they may do a joke and nobody laughs. The funny thing, they'll take the paper and throw it away. Oh, this joke didn't work. But you never want to throw any jokes away. You just want to rework them. Yeah, open mics are great. I have never been a big fan of going to live open mics, not because they're not valuable. I didn't have the commitment at the time. I didn't want to go into New York City at 11 o'clock at night. I tried some of those. I've tried 10:30 at night open mics. I found myself being sort of left out. There's a clique there. The young people, they're either smoking, they were high, they were drunk, and they were playing off each other. Not every mic was like that. I'm not saying it was, but the first experiences I had in live open mics were not pleasant.
Wow.
They were frustrating. I've gone to other open mics, and some of my friends have run the open mics. In fact, I even ran an open mic for a while with a friend. But there's a lot of commitment to that I wasn't really willing to do at the time. And also I found that not these mics necessarily, my friends, I often found that there could be 15 comedians at the open mic and nobody's paying attention to you. I went to an open mic at the Greenwich Village Comedy Club, which is one of the most established clubs in New York City. And you pay $5 to go there. I went in the afternoon. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I took the train and I spent money, hours going back and forth just to experience this open mic. And there was like a dozen of us there. And I was like number 10 or 11 to go up. By the time I got up, there were 3 of us left in the room. Everybody else left. That was it. The only person was there, people were there, the 2 people coming after me and the person who was running the mic. All right. Because there were no patrons there. Sometimes you have open mics at a bar or a restaurant, and there are people at the bar or restaurant listening. They pay attention to you. But the idea of open mic, to me, it's a selfish thing that you as a performer go there for one reason, to do your stuff. You shouldn't expect anybody else to listen to you. It's nice if they do, because you do want a reaction. But the idea is you're at work right now. You're at work with your stuff. You go up there and do your 5 to 7 minutes. People can disagree with me on this, that's fine. My feeling is you go for one reason, purpose to do your thing. Yeah, I'm the opposite. If I go to open mic, I try and support everybody. I just think it's just fair. But I would expect the same thing from them. But at the same point, it's very rare you're going to get that.
Oh yeah, if you love,
there is a selfishness. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I call it healthfully selfish. Okay, meaning that people going there for one reason, they have an agenda. Some people who do those open mics run to do 3 mics. They run from one mic to the other to the other. You know, they can do a 5 o'clock mic. They do their set early. Next thing you know, they go into another club for 6 o'clock and a 7:30 mic. You know, that's what they do. They're hustling it. I'm not at a career point where that makes sense for me. You know,
Yeah.
so, but certainly the value of mics. Well, put it this way: you run an open mic at 6 o'clock on Saturdays, EST time. It's a fabulous mic, and you know other people run those mics. You're performing, all right? You have a captive audience, all the other Zoom people. Is everybody paying attention to you? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. They could be looking down. They could have their screen off. They could have the sound off. That's just the nature of the beast, you know. But you know, thing is, but you're doing it for your reasons, okay? Okay. Now, when you have live mics, you know, it's different because you're out. There's nothing like comparing live to Zoom. When you go out in a live situation, you know, you're dealing with a microphone, you're dealing with stage lights, you're dealing with whatever it may be, background noises, you know, the bartender, the waiter, or whatever it may be, somebody yelling, screaming, whatever, somebody walking in front of you, you know, somebody heckling you. You know, these are things you don't get in an open mic, or when I say open mic, a Zoom mic. You know, maybe you get somebody in the background talking, and they don't realize they're talking. But let's face it, it's Zoom. You know, you put them on mute. But you can't mute the person in the bar. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one press.
Exactly. So that's the great thing about open mics that are live, because you're never going to get any better experience of being in front of people and just figuring out how to work the microphone. You know, there's so many things that you do out there that are different than on Zoom. But Zoom has been great too, because it's allowed you, me to connect and thousands of other people to connect.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the same. It'll never be the same, but you can use Zoom, also work on your material. So when you do get to a live open mic, you're polished. So I can get to an open mic tonight and say, okay, I just did a showcase yesterday. It was like a 5.5 minute set. Okay. I can go out on a live mic tomorrow and do that set. Okay. No notes or anything. Okay. Zoom gives you the opportunity, as I said, to have cheat sheets in front of you. Although established comedians have cheat sheets on a stool where they have a bottle of water. You know, what do you think a lot of comedians have the bottle of water over there for? Obviously, they wet their dry mouth, but also they go there, they take a pause. That's another thing I want to talk about, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Remember I said before about cadences and everything, about your joke cadences. You don't want the same thing, because it becomes repetitive and monotonous at a certain point. Oftentimes, you'll find comedians who are one-liner comedians. Okay, like the Mitchell Hedberg, he's passed away, unfortunately. Stephen Wright, Rodney Dangerfield, one-liner comedians. They have so many jokes to bang out in a 20-minute set or a 10-minute set. It's like machine gun almost, you know, joke. In order to break that pace, sometimes you see the guys take a bottle of water like this. Just like this. Like I'm even taking a break right now. You see, I talk fast. Okay, you can tell that. Sometimes just doing this, suddenly I slow down. Okay. Now I've broken the pace up. And you'll notice comedians have a little table on the stage. They'll have a bottle of water or a beer or a soda. And a lot of times too, they may have a piece of paper right under that bottle. They'll pick it up and they'll look down. Okay, what's next? Okay. Surgery. Okay, so what I do, I have my cheat sheet here. I have bullet point, I have words, I have surgery, I have infectious, I have broccoli, I have 5-star, I have thick skin, or whatever it may be. Those are words that trigger the joke in my mind. Okay, so it's a technique. But yeah, being able to take this, there's a comedian who's hysterically funny in Long Island. Every so often he takes a break. He goes like this: sip, 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 and people laugh. It's part of his routine, but it's also a break for him.
Wow.
To work the cadences. and it's very funny, you know. But everybody has their way of doing things that, you know, get them through their set. And well, being live, getting through a set is totally different than on a Zoom set. Because on Zoom, as I said, sometimes people like they just basically read their stuff right off the the computer, or they have in front of the computer on a bulletin board all their set. You know, and it's almost like reciting the national anthem, you know, or poetry in class. That's not performing. Performing is using your emotions. Performing is interacting with people, you know, in different ways. It's changing the cadences, changing your voice level, becoming a character. You know, that's performing, as opposed, as I said before, joke telling. And I'm still working on that. You know, I'm work in progress. Let's face it, I have a long way to go. You know, as I said, you got to keep on working that, keep on editing, keep on writing, keep on rewriting. Just on Monday, you think you're the funniest guy in the world. On Tuesday, you think you should quit comedy. Basically, you know, yeah. And you get false hopes. And as I said, sometimes you come out of a set and people come up, God, this is fantastic. This is great. I'm going to book you for another show. And they never book you again. You know, well, this is fantastic, Bruce. I definitely want you on another show. Well, Bruce, you had a tough night last night, didn't you? Yeah, yeah. I've been on shows. I've been on. There's a really great comedy club in Long Island called Governors.
Nice.
Is one of they own 3 clubs. The main club is called Governors, and they have 2 rooms. They have the little room there that holds about 50 or 60 people. Then they have the big room where all the main headliners perform. I never performed in the main room. Okay, I've only performed in the little room, which is an honor to just perform there. I remember there's what the green room is, right? You know what the green room is?
No.
Green room. The green room is a saying that comedians use. There's a room where comedians gather while they're waiting to perform.
Oh.
They call it the green room. Okay.
Okay.
In other words, when there's a show, the comedians stay in one place until they get called. That's called the green room, right? And this big club has a green room that you can kind of, the pro acts and the regular, like people like me, sort of can mingle in that green room if people want to get there. And I remember one night I was there, and this pro act from the main room came out, stood next to me, and he said, "Boy, I had a tough set. I really had a shitty set, really bad set tonight." And he just started talking to me, you know. And here's a guy who probably goes out every Saturday night there and gets great response. This particular night, the moon and the stars weren't lined up properly. Whatever the thing is, he just didn't have it. Or the crowd didn't have it. I've seen many great comedians get on stage, just dead silence. And then the guy said to me, "You're the funniest guy tonight." And I said, and that's a great feeling. But then again, I know that headline is there for a reason. He got booked because it's funny consistently. But some nights, and every comedian, I don't care who you talk to, has had bad nights. It's just life. You go to work, you have a bad day at work. That's just inevitable. Hopefully you have many more good days than bad days.
Yeah, and what's crazy about them, about comedy, it's unpredictable. So the nights where you think that you're not gonna get any laugh could be the funniest nights. Today we had open mic at 1:00 New York time. And
I know the gentleman who runs that, the Japanese gentleman. What's his name?
Hail Mary. His name is Roy.
Roy.
So I swear today I wake up, I was a little bit sick. I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I took some ginger, some garlic. I'm good now. But I was like, I'm bombing today. I don't want to go. I felt, and imagine today it was, I would say, the best. Like I had to shout to people to stop laughing because I told them I need to say my materials. I only have 5 minutes. So it's just crazy. And it also changed your day. It changed your day and your mood.
Absolutely.
I felt like I'm not sick anymore.
Exactly. you can go on forever. Exactly. As an entertainer, it's such a great feeling knowing that you entertained,
You
that they came
score.
to see you. They came to see you. I did a live show 2 weeks ago. It was in a restaurant, and somebody came up to me afterwards and said, I just want to let you know, I did a 22-minute set, 22 minutes, came up to me and says, I teach speech for a living or whatever, something like that. He says, I very, very rarely give compliments to people. I just want to compliment you. Your set was spot on. You hooked me right in. You started out slow, and all of a sudden, boom, you were off to the races. You had me engaged for 22 minutes. And he said, your timing was this, was that. It was just right there. He said to me, you must have practiced in front of the mirror for hours. And I didn't, but, and other people came up to me, Bruce, I never seen you so on. You were just on that night. And other people people I didn't even know. I didn't know what I did differently. I don't know what I did differently. And again, the 2 weeks before I did a show there. People loved my comedy, but they won't come up to me saying things like that, And when they don't come up to you saying, and they come up to somebody else and say, oh, I sucked that night, Look, they're going up to that person. How come they're not coming up to me? Or you get in the chat sometimes in Zoom, if you do a show, somebody writes great set, Bruce, or whatever it is. And there are nights when they write great set, Wad, and they don't write great set, Bruce. Did Bruce have a crappy set that night? We're all welcome to the human race. We all have feelings. We all have aspirations and inspirations to want to be better. And when you're not getting that constant reinforcement, it hurts sometimes. That's who we are as emotion. If we didn't have that feeling, our comedy would never grow.
Wow,
in my
it's
opinion.
crazy. It's crazy. Also, I feel like when you start doing comedy and when you start getting along with people, you feel things, but you don't see them. Like, what is this? The connection with, like, especially me. Like, I don't know where did human come from, and it also just make me question, like, what is this connections between us? How
Right.
it's just
Right. Yeah, but again, it's the connections. Again, I repeat it. Welcome to the human race. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. We all experience similar things, even though the environment was different. I'm repeating myself. That's the connection. And if you can put those things together, and oh, I understand he had a tough time growing up and with his parents, and whatever the reason being, they didn't have money or whatever it was. Gee, look at my growing up. We didn't have much money either.
yeah.
Wow, he struck a chord with me, and hey, I have something in common with this guy, and now he's putting a funny spin on it.
Yeah,
It makes me
exactly.
laugh about it. As I say, we're all different, but we're all the same in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, yeah. So the connection. How do you get that connection? By just being you and trying. I've seen so many people, especially on Zoom. There's an expression in the United States called "they mailed it in." Mailing it in basically means they didn't try. They just got
Oh,
out there. You ever get on a Zoom show and somebody says, "I don't know what I'm going to talk about tonight. I didn't come prepared." How would
mm,
you even say something like that? I've seen headliners on Zoom shows get on, they're lying in bed saying, I really haven't prepared for this. I'll just come up with some stuff. You know, it's get a headliner spot. It's such a privilege. Even if you're not prepared, fake it. You got there for a reason because people thought about your comedy. I remember a couple of summers ago, because of Zoom, obviously there's no live stuff, but there was an organization in Long Island who was supporting mental health. And every Thursday they were doing a mental health half hour of comedy.
mhm.
Okay. They would have one comedian come on and do a half hour of comedy, about a half hour. They said between 15, 20, 30, whatever you want to do, up to a half hour. No more, because these people only had like a half hour break and they wanted to do comedy. And so I was fortunate that this person contacted me. No pay, it was all voluntary, but I was honored to be on it. Plus, it gave me an opportunity to do a longer set. So I think I did like 20-minute set. So anyway, so I did the set and I got a pretty good response. I figured I want to see some of the other comedians that they were booking, so I decided to come on the next week and to see the comedian who was performing there. This guy even admitted on this thing, he said, I'm really not prepared for this. So I'm just gonna talk about whatever. I was so angry. I was angry because he took a spot away from somebody else, who was prepared, and or me, like why would me come back, or somebody else who looking for that position, for that opportunity. And again, why would you even say that? Don't say it if you don't feel it. Even if you bomb, okay, you can tell somebody is into it or not. But this guy, he just got, I don't know, just what should I talk about today? I don't know. And there was no laughing at all. There was dead silence.
That could be premise for you, like,
Yeah,
because I see also when people come, I'm giving you 5 minutes, so make me feel that it's worth it. I don't care if you bump, but make me feel that you at least make this 5 minutes worth it.
Right,
You said like
exactly.
you are trying to increase the reaction of people, the more reaction and the twist. I want to ask you something out of comedy. So
Yeah, sure.
one day, I don't know, you told me that you are Jewish, but for me, I feel that one day there will be nothing. Like, it's just, there will be nothing. Like, I don't know what will happen, but like, now Elon Musk is trying to take humans to Mars so we can be multi planet species,
Right,
and this
right.
will also give us more chance to survive. He's trying to do Tesla to save Earth, or anyways, just for the human race. But I do believe that one day I think we will be gone, even if we go to Mars. And
Huh.
what I don't know if you believe in this or no, but after that, what motivates you to do good or to do bad, to watch yourself? If what makes you do your decisions based on good or bad if you think that one day maybe
Right.
there will be nothing?
Yeah, that's right. It's an interesting question. But I think part of it is maybe it's sort of a tricky question in the sense that because I surround myself with people like myself, or I try to surround myself with people like myself. So if I respect those people and like those people, I'd only want good things to happen. And so, I mean, it doesn't mean I have bad thoughts. Sometimes I have jealousy thoughts. I have angry thoughts. I mean, I've been in positions where I wish somebody was dead. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say it sometimes, but or to say not even dead, just really in bad position.
Yeah.
Some things happen to us in life that are unfair. I have a bunch of different things that happened to me in life. Car accidents. I was there at 9/11. 9/11, the towers fell. I
Oh
was
my God.
downtown there. Yeah, I was down there, thankfully. I mean, I didn't see a lot of what a lot of other people saw. I kind of got out of there, but I saw enough to have my memories of that.
Oh my God.
I had a bad case of COVID. I was very sick with COVID also. So I've had challenges, and I get angry over the fact that I'm a good person. How can that happen to me? You know, uh, um, but I try and do the right thing for the most part with people because you give, you get back usually. But sometimes that's a tricky thing because if you're just giving to get back and you don't get back, that can make you even angrier. So you kind of like, try and do things naturally as possible without what's the word I want? There's a word I'm looking for, without a payoff necessarily all the time. I want to do good for you, and just do what's the payback? Maybe nothing. The payback is I felt good that I did something for you. The payback comes back, and you want to do something good for me. Hence, that's why we're here right now, talking. And that could be done with spouses and family and friends as well, even strangers. How many times have you helped a stranger? What's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do? Doesn't mean I haven't done the opposite. I sometimes have things in my mind saying I should have done this differently. Why, how come I reacted this way?
Yeah, I'm
You know,
sorry. Why do we feel good if you do something good? What's this good feeling and bad feeling that we get in our body? Do you have an explanation?
hold on a second. Hold on. I can't. I just want to know what's on your 15, 20 minutes. Who knows that? I don't know that. Sorry.
It's fine.
Okay. So anyway, so anyway, so we're always okay. Like good things. Like for example,
The
here's a
good
good example.
feelings. I was asking you, so you want to go for
Right.
another 15 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, the 15 till 5:30 is good. Till 5:30.
Okay.
My
So
time. For 20 minutes. So.
where does the good feelings come from when you do something good? What is that feeling that comes? Is it chemical? Is it spiritual?
I think it's a combination of chemical and spiritual. Okay. You know, um, and I'll use an example with exercise. I told you I was in the exercise business.
Mm.
When you exercise and when you do good things, there's something called endorphins. So endorphins get released in the brain. Okay. And mainly with exercise. And that's why you feel the natural high after exercise. You feel good about things, you know. So but as far as happiness and doing good things, I can't tell you, I'm sure there's a chemical reaction in here that says, hey, keeps my blood pressure nice and calm, it keeps my heart rate nice and calm. You know, if you do something bad, what happens is your facial expression, muscles get tightened, you know, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, you start to sweat a little bit more, you become more tense. You know, take a look at an angry person versus a happy person, right? A happy person usually smiling, you know, angry person has this look on their
Yeah.
face. And just the fact that when you know you're angry, what are you more tense?
Hmm.
When you're angry and tense, do you sleep well that night? No, usually your thoughts and turn. When you're happy, you know, I mean, you can't be always happy because that's not realistic either. You can't be so happy, what they call it happy-go-lucky. You can't be that all the time. There's not anybody who's never had an argument with their spouse or friends, you know, we never fight. That's bull. You always have a fight somewhere, you know. Like even like my son just came in right now. You know, I was angry at him over the fact that he interrupted me, but he didn't know he was interrupting me.
It's
So
fine.
no, I'm just making a point. Here's a
Yeah.
perfect point. Anger versus happiness or whatever. Am I going to spend the rest of the night being angry at him? No,
No.
right? Or you could have felt angry that we got interrupted,
No,
right?
not at all. Not
Oh,
at all.
no, I know you're not. I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not. But I'm saying you could have turned that another way. No big deal. It's really not a big deal. But you could say, "Oh my God, you interrupted my podcast. How could you possibly do this? You have some nerve."
Yeah.
You know, you know. So again, there are choices. You have choices. What makes somebody choose happiness versus anger or whatever? I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sometimes
That's what make it interested to ask.
yeah,
I also have another question. What,
sure.
would you describe you maturing during your life? Like, when do you feel that you mature, and
Mhm.
when do you feel that you mature, and what does being mature mean to you?
Sure. That's a good question. I felt I was a late, what they call a late bloomer. What we call them late bloomer. I felt I matured after high school. Yeah. I felt I matured after high school, mainly in my early 20s. I was certainly not immature back then, but I may not have had the self-confidence back then. I felt that, you know, I was not as muscular, as handsome, as you know, as good with the ladies, whatever it may be. My insecurities were normal insecurities, but I felt that they kind of lasted maybe through my early years of college, you know. But once you get the confidence, you know, it was like turning on a switch, you know, everything poured out. To look at me now, people say, "Oh boy, you're the most together person in the world." I still have my insecurities, you know. I don't try not to let them interfere with my life or interfere with our relationship. And I support people who have whatever issues going on. But yeah, I mean, there's no timeline as far as when people mature, faster or slower. I don't think there's a right or wrong either.
Yeah.
It's right for me. It's not script. This is not scripted. You know, as a parent, you know, people who have children, there's no manual how to raise a child. You know, it's not like you can look in a book and say, okay, on Monday I'm going to have my child do this. On Tuesday I'm going to have them do this. It doesn't work that way, you know, because you know there's always issues with kids with just differences. They have their own ways of growing up. Mother Nature, that's just the way things are. But as far as you know, there's a mental maturity, there's a physical maturity as well. You know, on the physical side, I felt I wasn't as physically matured as a lot of other people. And I go back to the naked swimming class. You know,
Oh,
when
okay.
I looked in the mirror of that swim class, and I looked at somebody else in the mirror of that class, I was saying, how come he's more mature than me? How come he had facial hair, or how come he was bigger or more muscular, or whatever it may be, you know, or other things, you know. Then again, somebody could look at me after when I graduated college, I got my master's. I was teaching as an adjunct professor at some of the big colleges in New York over here, and I remember the first day I got in front of a classroom. Okay. And I said, wow, they hired me because of my knowledge and my experiences. And I said to myself, geez, I don't think I'm that special. Why are these people, these 30 people paying for me to teach them this semester? And I got some of the highest grades as far as teaching goes, as far as them wanting me back and wanting me to teach more classes. And I started feeling really good about myself, saying, hey, you know, I had the insecurity that say, me? I'm just a regular schmo like anybody else. And it's no different than comedy. You get a great crowd, they're clapping and everything. They're clapping for me, you know. What am I so special? That's an insecurity that I possess, you know. And but that's just, again, I work on that as much as possible to it, because I always want to be better. There are good days and bad days, you know. And but yeah, how people mature, and we're always maturing. You're mature. Your comedy is maturing. Okay, your job is maturing. Your relationships are maturing. You're maturing in other ways. Your body is maturing as you're getting older. You know,
Mm.
let's face it, things change. You know, whatever it may be. I just went to the eye doctor today. You know, as I told you, I'm 66 years old. Thankfully, I only go once a year. I don't need glasses. All right, but other things, you know, hey, I lost my hair at age 25. You know, well, how do you figure that one out? That added a little insecurity to me, you know. You know,
Yeah, I think that I like what I understood from what you said, that you always have to be like, how does the body mature? I think by being more healthy, by looking after your body more, by knowing how to exercise, how the relationship get more mature by putting more trust, how to become more mature, treating people better. Uh, actually, so another question: how about knowing ourselves? Because there are many people when they are in their 60s or 50s, they are like, oh, when I was in my 20s or even in my 30s, I didn't know who I am. Like, oh, and now I just, when I am old, when I get to my 50s, 60s, I start to know who I am. But then your time is almost like you are about, your time is about to be done in Earth. So how do you, what's your take on that?
yeah. So my next 30 years are different than, you know, obviously, because again, there's different stages in life where, for example, you know, when you graduate college, you're looking for a career. So what do most of your energy spent on trying to find a career? And, you know, so some things get pushed backwards. Once you hopefully find a career, then other things, priorities come. Let's say you want to get married, and priorities come. Now you want to have a family. Now that's family. Now you want your children to mature in a certain way. Then you want their children to go out and be into the world and be successful. And there's this constant evolution. Now that I get to a point of being in my 60s, you know, what things do I have to look forward to? And like you said before, take care of your health as much as possible. Some things you can't control. That's just Mother Nature and life, genetics or whatever, you know, or environment. But again, I always say, the things you can control, take control of them. Things you can't control, you can't control.
Don't
And
think
again,
of
yeah,
them.
exactly. Thing is, you know, that again, don't say I don't I like to live by that. Doesn't mean I always do. We always worry about what should have happened. But I always try and tell people, and I try and tell my son or whatever it is, there are certain things you can control. You can control the food you eat, your health, you can control where hopefully your grades if you're going to study. You know, you can control doing things safely, you know. You can control other stuff. You can control how you react to somebody, uh, but sometimes you can't control. And sometimes it's just, that's because being part of the human race. And I go back to this, and I may be digressing a little bit, but I remember when I had COVID, I was very, very sick
Oh my
when I
God.
first got it. It was March of 2019 when COVID first hit. And thank you. I was very, very sick. And I remember I was working with the doctor and the pharmacist, and the pharmacist said, you know, Bruce, I want you to start eating more eggs because there's a chemical in eggs that will help you. Okay. So a lot of vitamin D, other stuff in eggs. And I remember my wife, I have a fantastic wife, you know, she's a fabulous woman. I'm blessed with that, you know, and she'd make me scrambled eggs or whatever it was. And I remember one day, you know, she didn't make the eggs, but she went to the local bagel place and bought back eggs. And part of the COVID thing, it was frustrations, it was anger on my part, and plus there was brain fog, whatever it may be. She came back and had this nice thing of eggs, and I looked at it, and for some reason, I got so angry and I started yelling at her. Here she went out of her way to go to the store to pick this stuff up just for me, and I just started yelling at her. And she walked out of the room with this. She walked in the room with a big smile, thinking she's taking care of her husband, who's very sick. And I ruined that. She walked out like this and probably went downstairs crying, you know? And what possessed that in me to do that? And to this day, I can't, the frustrations and maybe where but that's not an excuse though. So I actually called her up and said, come upstairs. I'm really sorry. I don't even know how to apologize to someone. That stuff happens. The people you love, stuff still's going to happen. You may have best friends for life, and you may say something that's not right, and maybe they're angry at you and they want to talk to you for a week. But you got to get past that somehow, you know. Yeah, and that to me was sort of the defining moment. I said, I'm never going to have that happen again. But never is. Can you say never happen again? I can't. But in my mind, that is embedded and said, I'll never react that way again. Because that was so, here's somebody who went out of their way and I hurt them so bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, that's a story that stops people in their tracks. What do you say after that? You know, I'm not a bad person, you know, but something clicked there that I don't know, you know, the motor neurons weren't firing properly. There's some reason why, I don't know what the reason was, but I felt good enough to call her up and say, hey, I apologize. If when you don't apologize for things like that, you know, that's when you can create issues. Because now that person's starting to wonder what she did wrong. And if I'm just happy-go-lucky and carefree and don't acknowledge their feelings, that's wrong too. So again, what creates happiness? What creates anger? What creates hate? If you have an interaction with somebody and you know that was probably not the right thing and you don't fess up with, that can stir hate and anger in most people. And they're going to act in a certain way. Maybe the next time when you want those eggs, you may just put the middle finger up and say, F you, get it yourself. Yeah, you know. So, yeah.
I think
Crazy.
the most important is like even they say good leader or it's not the one who doesn't do mistakes. Everyone does. The good leader is the one that always try to fix them and not and admit their mistakes. That's what makes
Yeah.
people.
But again, we're not perfect, as we say. Sometimes we don't even acknowledge that we did make a mistake and we blame somebody else. Sometimes you got to look to the blame back to yourself. You know, originally I wanted to blame her for something that's kindness. I don't know what it was. But I've actually, if you look inside, it's me that I was actually angry at, whatever the reason being. You know?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but you know, it's
Yeah.
just, you know, what you think is going on in your mind, you know, and you can't think for somebody else. You can't tell somebody how to react either. You know, you may be in a situation, you react one way. Okay. And I'll say, why did he react that way? That's because you're you. Or I'm in a situation, I may react that way. You may say, Bruce, why did you react that way? That's just because I'm me. And you can't tell somebody how, like, God forbid somebody passes away in your family. Some people are crying for days and days. They can't stop crying. Other people get very introspective and just don't cry. Are they wrong by their emotions because they're not crying? No. Is that person crying their eyes out for a week wrong? No. Somebody could look at them and say, oh, they're just trying to get attention. They're crying all the time. Or if you're not crying, oh, he's such a cold person, you know, he's a terrible person. That's not right. That's not true. That's how you react to things. Yeah, yeah. Again, a lot of complexities in life, my friend. And comedy helps out a lot. Let me tell you that. This whole thing with COVID, as I mentioned earlier, COVID has a lot of levels. COVID is a disease that affects people mentally, physically, obviously, and the emotional part is very important. You have a lot of people who are stuck in the house who don't have the outlets. That's why, again, the Zoom stuff and everything has been great. And what do you do with all that creativity and energy? You got to figure out a way of somehow taking that and doing something productive. I think that's what comedy's helped me out a lot during this, and it's helped my comedy grow and me as a person, I think, too, because again, we're channeling other people, we're establishing new relationships that we never would have had prior to COVID, but certainly wish that COVID wasn't here either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't know. So I think you want to leave like in 3 minutes. So I'm thinking to wrap
Yeah,
it
2
up.
minutes. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't mind.
I can just wrap it up. I just want to tell you that in this like 1 hour and a half, I learned a lot from you, and it was just pleasure to listen to you. I feel so thankful for you just talking to me and giving me all this valuable stuff. I'm just so pleased. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And right back at you again, giving me the platform to do this. And again, I'd be happy to come back another time and we can talk about other things. We can talk about the same things, I'll certainly make myself available. And, I've done a bunch of these podcasts for other people, not just that like this. I've done other things on COVID and comedy and whatever else. I find it's very good too, because it gives me an opportunity to be me in front of you. And, you can sort of see how the wheels are working in my head. And if I can help if I can help somebody else out, if they listen to this podcast, I mean, more power to that. If they want to contact me at any time, they certainly can. My website is www.bruce.comedy.com.
That's perfect. I just love so much. Like that's why I'm doing podcast, because everyone has different experience, and by talking to people, you can learn something. And what a great opportunity to meet someone like you and to have you in this podcast. Like you've been so amazing, and I'm just so happy today. So thank you so much again.
Me too, my friend. Me too. All right.
Hopefully I see you in, so I do my open mic, as I told you, in Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Saturday, 6 o'clock. Do you have Instagram? Do you use any social media?
Yeah. I sometimes use Instagram. Yeah.
But do you do posts? What's your name?
I post more on Facebook. I'm going to start posting more on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And I will put your website also down. And thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was
Thank you, my friend. We'll be in touch. And as I said, hopefully I'll see you soon. And if you want to do volume 2, I'm available. Just let me know.
I would like to. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you again. God bless. Take care.
Bye. God bless.